Hello, everybody, and welcome to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. Good Friday to you. Hope your weekend is off to a good start. We have some Browns news to talk about. The NFL has ended all of the suspense. They have come out and suspended Kareem Hunt for 8 games. He will miss the first 8 games of the NFL's regular season. Hunt has notified the league that he will not, in fact, challenge that suspension, that he accepts the suspension and the punishment, and that he will, in fact, work to become a better person and will take the resources that are available to work on becoming a more productive person in the Cleveland community and to live up to the expectations of an NFL player. We are going to welcome in Jared Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. I'll get it right. Jake, we appreciate the time. Thanks very much. First of all, let's talk about what your reaction is to this. Certainly not a surprise because everybody knew Kareem Hunt was going to be suspended. 8 games might be a little bit less than some thought.
Yeah, I would have to imagine that was on the radar for John Dorsey and the company there when they decided to bring in Kareem Hunt. It's a difficult situation. Obviously, Kareem made a massive mistake as a human being. It's not my place here or there to condemn him as a human and say he doesn't deserve a second chance in life. There's going to be a myriad of opinions on the whole topic. And, unfortunately, our opinions mean relatively nothing other than watching the football player on the field. So he's going to be a part of things. He's going to be in the fold. I think the Browns were planning on him missing 8 to 10 games as a sort of average for where it could have possibly ended up. So it's about where they expected. I don't think it changes their plans on whether they're shopping other running backs. I know we're going to talk about Duke Johnson at some point, but it's about par for the course for what I expected. It's about par for the course what I would imagine the Browns expected too, and they'll get him back for the last half of 2019 pretty fresh with an understanding of how the Browns franchise will work, how the offense will work, and all of the above.
So that suspension takes place. It goes into effect when the final roster reduction is made August 31st. Kareem Hunt will become eligible, as you mentioned, second half. So game 9, he becomes eligible. And you get a fresh and healthy running back second half of the season who's been an all-pro.
Yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic football player. We saw firsthand when he arrived in Cleveland with Kansas City and was probably the best player on the field that day. So there's no denying the fact that he can play the game. There's really no denying based on his rookie year and this part of his second year that he's a top 5 back in the NFL. Now, that Kansas City offense is built to flourish, and he's built with that skill set to flourish there too. But there's no doubt in my mind that if he comes here, he's given some opportunity. He's going to find success with Baker Mayfield and now, the weapons on the outside and David Njoku at tight end. The Browns have almost a laughable stock of weapons. If you would have told us last year before the Hunt expansion that somehow the 2019 Browns would end up with Kareem Hunt and Odell Beckham, I think you'd probably laugh us out of the room at that point. So it's a good situation to be in for an offense that's going to need to put up a plethora of points. And just from the player on the field, I condemn Kareem for making the right decision and not challenging that suspension, upholding his end, doing all of the player reform, person reform stuff. Because, bettering yourself as a person in that situation is obviously what's important. So he's doing the right thing by not challenging that suspension. The Browns are giving him help. The NFL is giving him help. So hopefully when he gets a second chance, he'll maximize that by making the most on the field and off the field too.
Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report with us. And Jake, let's talk a little bit. We touched on it. Duke Johnson, you hear the rumors that the Browns are shopping him, that there's 3-4 teams already interested in him. What do you think value would be for Duke Johnson? And do you still think the Browns are listening based on the fact that they may not have Kareem Hunt now we know they're not going to have Kareem Hunt until week 9.
Yeah, I think that they've been listening all along. That'd just sort of be my guess that when the minute they signed Kareem, even that interview John Dorsey did right afterward with the media when that question was brought up, they talked about his value, and he didn't really give a crystal clear answer on what that value is. So I'm in no way surprised that they're shopping him. It makes sense in the situation of you don't want a back such as Duke, who's making 10+ million, or sorry, top 10 running back money in the NFL, kind of clogging down what's going to be a tight cap situation as the Browns try to fill in some other voids. So if you're going to have two backs that are better than him on the roster, and that's not a slight to Duke Johnson, like Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt are fantastic running backs. I just think that there's probably a lesser of a role for Duke here than we would think. And I think people have wanted Duke Johnson to have a bigger role for so long. They had an idea that he might get a bigger role when when Freddie Kitchens took over the offense. But I think week 9, they played Kansas City. He had about 8 catches and 70-some yards, a couple touchdowns. People thought he might have that big role we've been expecting. But the rest of the year didn't pan out the way in terms of him being involved in the offense many expected. So to me, he feels like an expendable weapon. And the Browns really did right by Duke. They gave him a good second contract in the running back market. I think it just might have run its course. Duke was the best weapon on some really bad teams, and that doesn't mean he's not a good player. Like, I think he can go somewhere like Philadelphia, for example, and find a lot of success. He has value. Running back market in general is really tough to read that landscape. So I'm not sure that his value is more than maybe a 4th-round pick. If you can get something like that back for him, you would feel pretty good about it, especially for a player that you don't think is going to be a big part of your offense in 2019. So getting something for him is good. Now, the 8-game suspension, I don't think it changes anything. I think you could obviously sit on Duke Johnson and run him up to the trade deadline and trade him somewhere that might need help, something you did with Carlos Hyde last year and got some return for him at that point too. It wouldn't hurt them necessarily to hold on to him if it doesn't put too much of a strain on the cap. At the same time, I think if they get the right offer this offseason, maybe for an even swap for a player with good potential at a position that they need, they would pull the trigger on that in that situation. But they're in a good spot. They don't have to force Duke Johnson out of the door unless they feel like they get the right value. But they can also run him up right to that trade deadline when Kareem Hunt comes back and still leave their offense in a really good spot as a sort of plan B while Kareem's out. Nick Chubb gets hurt. So they're in a good spot.
Yeah, Emmanuel Ogbah is another name that you keep hearing potentially being traded. Can you see that? And it's the same question. What do you think value would be for somebody like Ogbah?
Yeah, I'm in that same mold of like a fourth round pick area. He's never really panned out to be the player that we hoped he would be in this situation. It hasn't turned into the great pass rusher that I think a lot of people expected him to be when he came out of Oklahoma State. So, the hope would be with Emmanuel Ogbah is that you're able to get some value back for him while not decimating your rotational spot along the defensive the edge position. So I expect if the Browns do move on from Ogbah, it's going to be for somebody who can obviously make an impact for them, at least in a position of need, or they can get a pick back because at the end of the year, Ogbah's running up to his last year. You're looking at a player who, if he walks away at the end of the year, you get nothing in return. So the Browns are going to have to weigh that and sort of see whether it's more important for them to keep that player in that position, get something out of him this year, or if they can find value so that he doesn't walk at the end of the year with nothing.
A little bit about the signing. So the Browns go out and they sign a tackle, offensive lineman, played tackle, 6'5", 310-pound Kendall Lamb. Started 13 games at right tackle for the Texans. I know you know him. What do you think of Kendall Lamb?
So Kendall Lamb was an undrafted free agent, not necessarily a name many people know. He will provide depth. He's better on what I call the retreat pass protection game than he is in run protection. Run blocking. He is really lacks a solid foundation and punch in the run game that leads him to be that sort of complete tackle that you hope he would be. But again, the Browns, with the downfield passing game that we're expecting from Todd Haley, from Monken and Kitchens, you're going to find somebody you want to find somebody who can be that better, more efficient pass blocker. He did grade out as a better pass blocker than Harrison, Robinson, and Hubbard, all three of them according to Pro Football Focus's analytics data. And that means something. It's like I said, the Browns are going to drive the football downfield. It's going to be important to be able to sit back there with the quarterback, not have to worry about helping your tackles all the time. So I do think he is going to be a player that competes at both left tackle and right tackle if the Browns aren't getting what they're expecting out of Harrison and Hubbard. And it can give them some security along the outside if they need that situation, or should that situation arrive.
And a young guy that can still potentially develop as well. Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report is going to stay with us. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. We will talk Browns offense and just how good it looks on paper. More sports and less Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition. We'll be right back.
heart-pounding, fast-breaking action of college basketball is back when the 2019 Mid-American Conference Basketball Tournament returns to the Q March 13th through the 16th, presented by Visit Myrtle Beach. Pulses will rise and hearts will race as the men and women of the MAC put it all on the line. Tickets for the MAC tournament are on sale now at the Q box office, online at theqarena.com, and at all Northern Ohio discount drug marts. MAC Tournament Basketball. Be there.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to ohiolottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.
It's the best of the best, Cleveland. All-star cars, hot rods, and motorcycles at the 2019 Summit Racing Equipment IX Piston-Powered Autorama. March 15th, 16th, and 17th at the IX Center. If a piston makes it go, it's in this all-star show, featuring motorcycles, antique trucks, insane hot rods in the Asylum, tractors, military vehicles, along with all-star themed car clubs on display. New this year is Fat Man's Invasion with Euro imports, sport compacts, lowriders, and more. PistonPowerShow.com for details. Kids 12 and under are free. Discount tickets on sale now at select Discount Drug Mart locations and Summit Racing Equipment in Talmadge.
Welcome back to More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon, and joined again by Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Jake, this is kind of fun. If we take a look at the Browns' offense on paper, who'd have thought you'd have all these crazy names? You look at it, and there is explosiveness pretty much throughout the skill positions. You got Beckham and Landry, Callaway, a young big play guy, Chubb, Duke Johnson, Kareem Hunt, David Njoku, Baker Mayfield. Boy, it looks like they can put up some points with just the skill position players that you're looking at.
Yeah, when you look at it on paper, you see quite how impressive it is, and it's almost daunting to think that this is what it's morphed into from this rebuild where we came across the idea of taking David Njoku in the first round a few years back. Corey Coleman was a part of things too at that point. But, you developed those guys in Rashard Higgins. You took a flyer on Antonio Callaway, who's turned into a pretty good deep threat wide receiver. You made a really good trade, to pull in Jarvis Landry for a fourth-round pick. And then you're getting to the point that you have these guys on your roster who you think are able to make plays. You're just lacking that one big player. And that's when some of the idea and the ability to pull the trigger for like Odell Beckham is pretty a fascinating concept at the time, and they decided to make that move because they think that's the capstone piece of an offense to take them to the next level. So it really is a nice accumulation of the regime before John Dorsey to set the table in a sense, and then using John Dorsey's ability to maximize those opportunities and put some really good football players on the field. But what the fun part is, Dave, is that it's a mixture of a regime before who did things a little bit differently, set the table for a regime that's done a really good job of closing and putting those explosive football players on the field. Now, it's going to be interesting how it all works out, how they mesh all these weapons, how they fit Jarvis Landry into situations with Odell Beckham. Do they move Odell Beckham outside, inside? The good thing is the Browns have 4 good wide receivers. They might go get a 5th one in the draft. Damian Ratley, Derek Willis, those guys that are on the roster might fill out that 5th spot. So the Browns have an opportunity, just like the Rams did, who were exclusive what's called 11 personnel, which means 1 running back, 1 tight end on the field, 3 wide receivers all the time, the ability to get light boxes for your running game, which makes Nick Chubb all the more dangerous, makes Kareem Hunt all the more dangerous, Duke Johnson all the more dangerous in those situations. Get light boxes, but be able to throw that downfield, early down, deceptive play action that Todd Monken became famous for in Tampa Bay last year. They set some early season records in points scored in quarterback play. So if you just look at what's on paper and you look at the staff built and you look at the quarterback that has fallen into place here, and really, being honest, Dave, it all comes down to the quarterback, and the Browns found one, and that's why you feel comfortable making that move. But, man, there's not one part of this that you look at, pretty objectively and say, I don't like that spot. So the Browns are in a rare position where they have depth all over the skill position. They have the quarterback that can use those players, and it's just going to be really interesting to see just how much firepower can be put into play and what this offense can look like on a Sunday afternoon.
The other thing that makes it very interesting and a whole lot of fun is these are all guys in their mid-20s or younger, and none of them are on the downside of their career. They're all on the upside of the career. So in theory, they have a couple of years to grow and even get better.
Yeah, that's the dangerous part, is even if you look at the defensive talent that's here too, it's all been groomed from a young age. So the Browns are in a really optimal position to maximize a long window. Now, there's going to be things that you have to do with the cap to make that work over the long haul, because everybody wants to get paid. Winning breeds that, that what do they call the sickness of me? What can you do for me? So how the Browns balance that, they're able to pay these guys who are deserving to be paid as you get to that point. I'm not a big believer in fearing the cap a long way down the road, because I think that when you get good enough, no matter how many good players you have, you're going to run into cap situations. So maximize the talent you can bring on in any given year. The Browns are in the cap bubble that is provided by what's called cap rollover. So they get this 1-year bubble. If they don't use it, it does roll over, which the Browns have been doing from year to year. But in this situation that they want to use it to use players, they have a spike in the cap that they can use for a year. Then the salary cap that they're used to was come back the following year. So they'll have to make tough decisions on players like Jarvis Landry, who have a large cap hit, or Christian Kirksey, who have a bigger cap hit too. But those decisions come down the road. Get as much talent as you can in the building right now. Use it, capitalize on this window where you have your rookie quarterback who's now going into year 2, but on that rookie deal, and you can really maximize the talent around him and take that Eagles approach that they've mastered under Howie Roseman and push it into what you hope is a Super Bowl opportunity.
The other thing that's kind of interesting, we get Landry and we get Beckham on trades, and basically it's from the same guy, Dave Gettleman. So follow me with this. The Browns traded Andy Lee to the Panthers for a 4th-round pick. Dave Gettleman, at the time, was the GM of the Panthers. They then take that 4th-round pick and trade it to the Dolphins for Jarvis Landry. Gettleman, not the GM of the Dolphins at that time. But then this year, they acquire Odell Beckham Jr. from the Giants, where Dave Gettleman was the general manager. So the Browns say, thank you, Dave, for giving us 2 quality wide receivers who are going to push each other.
Yeah, the story of those 2 guys is really fascinating, and it's a national story, and rightfully so, because of how much they pushed themselves as young players at LSU. But yeah, the Dave Gettleman, I'm sure many people in New York aren't too happy with how that whole thing shook out, and he's sort of taken the fall on the sword situation. I'm not sure what New York's vision is. They don't seem to be tearing it down to rebuild. They're just going to try to keep on keeping on. Then, I can't speak for what they're doing there. But I do know that the Browns, whether through Sashi Brown's trade of Andy Lee to them or John Dorsey's now use of him to get Odell Beckham, the Browns organization as a whole is very thankful for what Dave Gettleman's been able to give them.
And in fairness, the Giants really probably need to retool. They're getting a little older, and if you continue to wallow 5-11 to 7-9, you're going to continue to do that. Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Have to take a quick time out. Jake's going to stay with us. When we return, we'll talk roster upgrades and some of the things that the Browns might look to do in the draft and potentially free agency. More sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winter Edition. We'll be right back.
Your basement is damp, dirty, and not somewhere you want to spend time. Let Naturestone Flooring transform your basement into a true extension of your home. Naturestone's proprietary hydrostatic ports allow water to simply evaporate, so no mold or mildew. Naturestone is the affordable basement floor solution that beautifies your home.
Get Naturestone installed in your home by the end of March and get up to 50% off. Schedule your free in-home estimate easily online today.
It's not just a floor. Wow, it's Naturestone.
There are tastes we remember. Every smell brings the happiness of times gone by. Experience this every time you walk into Gallucci's Italian Foods. Whether you need lunch on the go, a catered party, or that perfect blend of wine, meats, and cheeses, Gallucci's has exactly what you're looking for. Straight from Mama's Kitchen for old world traditions or original experiences. From the tastes you remember to new flavors you'll never forget, Gallucci's is a tasty branch of your family tree.
When it comes to selling you a mattress, most retailers are handing you a long line of extra steps that drive up costs and create confusion. At the Original Mattress Factory, we simplify the mattress shopping experience by building mattresses and box springs in our own local factories and selling them direct to you. It's short, sweet, and simply makes sense. So experience more than just a mattress store. Experience an original, the Original Mattress Factory.
Welcome back to more sports and less Levine Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We have been joined and will continue to be joined by Jake Burns. Orange and Brown Report is also a contributor on cleveland.com. If you get a chance, go and read them. Great stuff on the Browns. Jake, turn our attention to areas to upgrade. Areas that you think the Browns will look to upgrade, that they need to upgrade. Obviously, they went all in. They believe you don't go out and get Odell Beckham Jr. unless you think you're a serious contender.
Yeah, I don't think they're done by any stretch. There's a safety need that has to be addressed, whether it's Eric Berry, Chiefs' notorious safety there, who's done some amazing things in his career, overcoming some odds with cancer, and then having some really good football seasons in there too, a Pro Bowl player. He's dealt with injuries the last 2 years, so that's a type of player they might be able to take a flyer on, get in there for cheap, and maybe you get 16 games out of him. But the leadership that you can get from that player is really something that's unparalleled. So they'll entertain that idea. Trey Boston, another player that they could entertain at the safety position, but they certainly have to address box safety because Demarius Randall is entrenched at free safety, but that box safety is a necessary position that they should consider after Jabril Peppers' departure. Linebacker, they have two good players. You only really want two players playing at linebacker in modern NFL. You want as many DBs on the field as you can as teams spread you out more and more. But a guy like Zach Brown, who the Redskins just let go, Brandon Marshall's another name from the Redskins who could be a player of interest. The Browns really have to fill that void left by, Jamie Collins. And it seems like they have big plans to use Jannard Avery. But Jannard Avery has been sort of known in his rookie year to be a really good situational edge rusher, maybe not necessarily a three-down linebacker type. But if you're only using him 30% of his snaps and he's walling off a hash in zone coverage or maybe running with a tight end, he's athletic enough to do that and he can play there. So it's not a immediate pressing need. They can certainly upgrade that position though. And you're really hoping that Christian Kirksey has a bounce back year after 2 rough years in Greg Williams' defense and coming off an injury. So you're really banking on that situation too. So I'd feel better if they upgraded that or brought in somebody. And the draft is there for that too. There are some names in the draft that could fall to the second round that could be some good second, third, fourth round that could be some good players. Interior defensive line, I still think they have to add depth behind 2 heck of a good football players up front in Sheldon Richardson, Larry Ogunjobi, who I believe in both of those guys to be good players, but they have to get depth. They re-signed Carl Davis, but they need to, like I said, look at upgrading a pass rushing second unit interior player. Chad Thomas might have that ability to bump down inside and rush a little bit. I know they drafted him for that last year. The 3rd round pick, who'd really out of Miami, didn't see much time all year. Was a big disappointment, but it's early in his rookie contract. He's going to have every opportunity to get in there and compete. So plenty of things that they can do. It's a good interior defensive line class, but those are 3 positions I think the Browns have to shore up. And then letting go of a player, Brian Body Calhoun, who just signed with Houston today. They could really use a slot corner, sort of, gain a little bit more depth there. TJ Carey's going to be their guy, but in the modern NFL, man, with all these guys who are running around the field everywhere, you can really never have enough good cornerbacks.
The other thing that needs to be addressed, really, a backup quarterback. I don't think Drew Stanton is a guy that you put on the field and expect to play. I suppose you can win with him. He has won in the NFL, but I think he's there more of that mentor to make sure that Baker Mayfield has the calming influence that was there. Who are some guys to look at that the Browns might bring in either through the draft or free agency or what be it to be their backup quarterback?
Yeah, there's a plethora of names that are sort of floating around on the market. I mean, somebody like is just let go today. Trevor Simeon's a name that could be out there. I know that Ryan Tannehill was just traded. I thought he might hit the market as another name. I'm big on Ryan Fitzpatrick. He had a fantastic year. Some of the better graded single game efforts early in the year from Pro Football Focus as a starter for Tampa Bay. So I'm not sure he is looking to settle in as a backup. But if he is an ideal fit in that Todd Monken offense. Having that history there can help Baker Mayfield, a really good leader type too. And then, because the last thing you want, Dave, is to be maybe start 5-3 and Mayfield goes into concussion protocol. And all of a sudden you need to win 2 or 3 games and you don't really have confidence in your backup quarterback to do that. The Browns sound like they have confidence in Drew Stanton. He's a great human being. He's a great interview, a great guy. Seems very cerebral. Helps Baker out on the sideline, helps the offense out on the sideline. You could see him several times with Ryan Lindley and Kitchens on the sideline last year, kind of going through things. I think he's immense help, but I'm not sure you want him to be having the season on his shoulders in the middle of the year. Something comes to. So those free agent names are something to keep an eye on. Blake Bortles might hit the free agent market. Not a guy that people are going to love, but he does have starting experience. Might be able to get you through a couple games here and there if you need him to. If the Browns do choose to draft somebody, a couple guys late I have my eye on. Gardner Minshew out of Washington State has an extensive air raid background, which is where that Monken offense comes from. He plays under the guru that is Mike Leach out of Washington State, had a nice career. It really has that sort of chip on his shoulder that Baker Mayfield has. So those two could align well over the long haul. Brett Rypien out of Boise State's another guy to keep your mind on, as well as just a guy who can sling it a little bit, but it needs time to develop. But as an NFL quarterback and down the road could be that sort of guy who you could use in a pinch or could develop into a tradable asset too. So options to be had, still plenty of names out on the market as far as backups go. Everything I've gathered is John Dorsey's very confident in Drew Stanton. They signed him for 2 years for a reason, knowing that Tyrod only had 1 year. So I won't be surprised if they don't add to it, but I do think they would be wise to bring in somebody with a little bit more experience in a recent setting too.
Jake Burns, hope you stick around for one more segment. We're going to take a quick time out. When we return, Jake and I will talk about some names to keep an ear out for as the draft approaches. Browns don't have that first-round pick, but they do still have a number of picks. And John Dorsey's shown he's pretty good with those mid to late-round picks. We're going to step aside, take a quick time out. More sports and Les Levine. The Weekend Winners Edition will be right back.
It takes attention to detail. With your local Bryant dealer, you're getting more than just a technician. You're getting someone who pays attention to your needs and the little things that make a big difference. It takes a dealer you can rely on. And to keep your family warm this winter,
here, let me show you how this works.
It takes Bryant.
Bryant. Whatever it takes.
It takes Smiley One Heating and Cooling to bring the heat when things get chilly. Find us at 440-449-HEAT.
Welcome back to More Sports and Les Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. I'm Dave Bacon. We've been joined all half hour long by Jake Burns from the Orange and Brown Report. Jake, appreciate the time. Give us some names to keep our ears out for in the upcoming draft in April. I know you're not done with your studying, but John Dorsey's been pretty effective mid-late rounds, especially last year.
Yeah, I mean, the Browns are still going to have a draft that you're going to get a good amount of players from. I think they still have roughly 10 total picks left. They're going to be picking in the second round, pick 49. It depends on what they do leading up to the draft and what's available. There are going to be several safeties that are available. Juan Thornhill from Virginia, very good football player. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who's a player from Florida, another safety who they could attack that position, who could play down towards the box if they need him to. There are going to be players there. Linebacker is a steep drop-off after the first two names, the Devin brothers, Devin White and Devin Bush. So I don't know if they go linebacker second round, but they could go an interior player too, somebody like Kalen Saunders from Western Illinois, or they could go Rennell Wren type 2 later in the draft. But I do think the second round they're going to have some options at positions they really need to attack. It's a really good time to need a safety, somebody that you can bring along the belt. But they could also look at corner too. And John Dorsey hasn't eliminated the idea of jumping back up into the first round to get a corner that they can maybe want to start opposite Denzel Ward. Maybe Justin Lane's available late. Maybe Greedy Williams falls a little bit due to an unstellar combine. So you got some guys who are there that they can jump up and get. I do expect defense to be attacked pretty heavily. Could possibly get an interior offensive lineman at some point in the mid rounds to push, the Austin Corbett right guard type of situation. And then you could also get a wide receiver a little bit later because they could probably use a fifth receiver who has that ability to be a deadly gunner in special teams and punt team and kickoff and stuff of that situation. Maybe a Terry McLaurin from Ohio State to keep your eye on, a guy who's excelled at that role in his college football career. So not much on offense that they need, but on defense they do have some positions I think that they will need to attack, but I don't think anything stops them, Dave, from taking the best player available. So if the best player available happens to be an offensive tackle at 49, if they didn't move up, they'll consider drafting an offensive tackle to develop over the long haul, and maybe a guy who can step in for Hubbard or Greg Robinson when those guys, maybe are set to be moved on from at some point in the next few years. So the good thing for the Browns is they have opportunities in free agency to attack positions that as they go into the draft, they know that they don't have to reach for anybody. But if they fall in love with the prospect, I do expect John Dorsey to continue his mantra of aggressiveness and move back up, possibly toward maybe in the overnight between the first day and the second day, moving into the early part of round 2, the middle part of round 2, because they love a player at the top of that board. You get a lot of that stuff in the first and second round where there are a lot of players left. And you have a whole night to look at it. And the Browns could maybe pull the trigger to move up with Arizona to the top of the second round, something like that. So it's uneasy for me to sit here and say, well, I can skip the first night of the draft because the Browns might not take me. Well, they could really fall in love with somebody and move up and take that position of importance if they want to.
Jake, let me ask you this. Dwayne Haskins, Ohio State quarterback, where do you see him going? And with the trade of Tannehill from the Dolphins, is that a sign that they're going to kind of try to jump ahead of the Giants maybe and try to get a quarterback?
I just think they have to. I think that the Jaguars were a popular place that he could have possibly landed. Obviously, they spent an abundance of money on Nick Foles, so they're out of the picture there. But Miami was sitting there with a couple of quarterbacks that, Jake Rudock, I think, is one of their guys, and then another player I can't remember off the top of my head. But you don't want those guys starting football games on a Sunday if you have intentions of winning. They're at 13. I guess it's a plausible situation that Haskins could fall to 13. Denver seems to be in love with Joe Flacco at 10. It's tough to say. You would think that the Giants would entertain the idea. Maybe the Giants are throwing a curveball saying they're all in on Eli and they're actually going to take Haskins at 6. But, every indication is that Kyler Murray goes 1 to Cliff Kingsbury and his offense in Arizona at 1. And maybe it's Josh Rosen getting traded somewhere that throws a wrench in all this. But if I were Miami, I needed a big, strong-arm quarterback to come in who's not just a big, strong-arm guy. He's a very intelligent quarterback who could be a good football player in the league, breaking his tape down. I think he has the ability to do it. Whether that works out, so much of the NFL is where you land, who you land with, the players around you. It'll be important for Haskins to get around a good offensive weapons. That's why I originally thought New York was the ideal fit for him because they had Odell Beckham and Saquon Barkley, but that shifted pretty quickly in our favor. So, what I'm hoping for Dwayne is he goes somewhere that really wants him, has some weapons and a stable franchise front office, coaching staff around him. If Miami is that place because they're eager to jump up and get him, that'd be fantastic.
Jake Burns, Orange and Brown Report, also a contributor on cleveland.com. Great stuff. When you see it, read it. Appreciate the time. Jake Burns with some really good insight on the Browns and where they sit after the Odell Beckham trade with the draft coming up. That's going to do it for us on this edition of More Sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. A quick couple of baseball notes. Tyler Clippard expected to miss the next 3 or 4 weeks with a pectoral strain, so he will be out of action at the beginning of the season. Interesting to see what happens with him with the Indians. Also, the Yankees expect to be without Luis Severino, their top starting pitcher, for the first month or so of the season. Let's see if they come knocking on the door of the Indians to get a starting pitcher. We'll have that and more next week. More sports and Less Levine, the Weekend Winners Edition. Stay with us. High School Sports Insider is straight ahead. Bill Castrovince will be joining me. Have a great week, everybody.
Keep it simple.
Leaders lead. Leaders lead.
Let's go! Stop whining!
Again, go again, yes! You The High School Sports Insider is brought to you by Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. By the Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. By Spectrum News 1, always Ohio, always refreshing, always on, exclusively on Spectrum. By Dominion East Ohio, Dominion, it all starts here. And by Classic Teleproductions.
March is here and the madness is officially in full swing. The hoops teams are battling it out to earn the title of state champion. As always, a great time to hop on board this edition of the High School Sports Insider. Along with Bill Castrovince, I'm Dave Bacon.
Today, we're going to shake it up in Shaker Heights with a 3-time state champion in the pool and a female hockey star. Plus, the Panthers are back on the prowl, the Bees are back on top, and there's a new star from St. Vincent St. Mary.
We begin tonight with a little history on the hardwood. Kirsten Bell became the first ever 3-time winner of Ms. Basketball in Ohio. As a parallel, LeBron James is the only 3-time winner of Mr. Basketball. Kent McKinley's Bell is that kind of good. She finishes her career among the top 5 in career scoring in OHSAA history and is a force on the defensive end of the court as well. Bell is a coach's dream, extremely talented, willing to lead, and a great teammate. We have an all-access look at Kirsten Bell, Ohio's first ever 3-time winner of Ms. Basketball.
On the basketball court, Kirsten Bell is always smiling and having fun, and that makes sense. She's one of the all-time greats in OHSAA history. Bell ends her career at McKinley 4th on the OHSAA career scoring list with over 2,800 points, ahead of Samika Randall and Katie Smith, both who were collegiate superstars. Bell, in her senior season, dealt with the talk she could become the first ever 3-time Ms. Basketball in Ohio. By way of comparison, LeBron James is the only 3-time Mr. Basketball in the state.
It keeps me motivated. Just hearing it from people, I don't really like to brag about it. I'm not really a cocky person, so I let people talk to me about it, smile, thank them.
Bell performed her best under pressure. She averaged almost 29 points a game in her senior season and was a force both on the boards and on the defensive end of the court for the Lady Pups. She was having fun and enjoying every minute of it.
I love basketball. I've been loving basketball since I was a little kid. My mom said my first word was ball, so she knew I was going to get into sports. But basketball wasn't my only sport. I played football, softball, I did track. So I was like a more athletic person because my dad, he was very athletic.
I would say versatility and dominance are the adjectives that I would describe, because at 6'1", she could play the point if we need her to, but we can have her go down low into the post. And she can score from every aspect of the floor. So not too many kids are able to do that.
Bell led the Bulldogs to the regional finals. She was never satisfied, always looking for areas of the game that she could tweak and improve.
I want to work on my left hand, get better at my left hand, because my first 3 years I really wasn't using my left hand, but my senior year I got better and better. So I'm just going to keep continuing to work on my left hand, work on my weaknesses.
She has to go to bed every night thinking that she's got to score, 25 to 30 points for us to win. And that's a lot of pressure for an 18-year-old. So she comes with that true test and competitive spirit night in and night out.
A spot in the McDonald's All-American game awaits Kirsten Bell. Next year, she'll head a little south to Columbus to play for the Ohio State Buckeyes.
I love Coach McGuff. He's a great guy. I love his personality. He's a great coach. He has a great system, great program. I think I fit perfectly in, and it's close to home, so that's another reason why I picked it.
Confidence. She thinks that we can beat any opponent. She instills confidence in her teammates by getting them the ball. She's a kind of an emotional leader when the game is close. Anytime that you have a 2-time Miss Basketball, you're very fortunate, because as you said, that doesn't come around very often.
Watch Bell practice and you begin to understand just how driven she is. Kirsten is always first in all the conditioning drills.
It helps me in games. It helps me get in shape, get me to the next level. So Ohio State is going to be easy to me because I'm going to be in shape. The McKinley basketball program is just get you ready for the next level.
We continue with another athlete with a very bright future. Lyle Yoast just wrapped up his high school career in diving, but there's no question he'll be competing at the next level and beyond. The senior from Shaker Heights is dreaming about the 2020 Olympics, and it just might become a reality. Here's Lyle Yoast, this week's Ohio Lottery Partners in Education Shining Star. The #1 diver in the state of Ohio is Lyle Yoast, but the Shaker Heights senior really wants to be the best in the world.
The Olympics is definitely a goal. It's something that's always nagging in the back of your mind.
He began diving at the age of 8, learning from Mark Hallen and the American Flyers diving team in Solon. 2 years later, Yoast qualified for the Junior Nationals, and he's been competing across the globe since then.
He's been to Cuba and to Germany and Ukraine and different parts of Canada. I mean, that is something that is, and that's the beginning. Like, this is really the beginning of his career.
The summer of 18 was especially sweet for Lyle. In July, he was in Kiev, Ukraine, competing in the FINA World Junior Diving Championships, where he finished 12th in the world in the 1-meter springboard.
It was hard not to get overwhelmed by it, but I mean, there's just the experience, just being a part of it, soaking it all up. That's my favorite part.
Yoast flew straight from Kiev to Atlanta for the USA Diving National Championships, where he captured not 1, but 2 national titles.
It was really great to finally, get there, have everything come together and come out on top, finally get that national title.
Once he got back home, Lyle won the Division I state championship in February, just like he had done as a junior and as a sophomore. But he also broke the state record in scoring during sectionals.
The previous state record was about 650-ish, around there, for 11 dives, and I came in and went 681, and hopefully that's one that's going to be sticking up there for a long time.
Lyle Yoast will be diving for the Ohio State Buckeyes next year as he works toward his ultimate goal.
At this point, we're taking it one step at a time, just trying to get better every day, little goals, just really focus on the progressions, and the results will take care of themselves.
Lyle takes AP classes and he's on the honor roll. If you know a student who shines in the classroom like Lyle, go to OhioLottery.com. Look for the About section. In there, you'll find the Supporting Education tab that has all the information you need.
We are just getting things rolling on this week's show. Coming up, we'll check in on one of the queen bees of gymnastics and some Panthers who ended a long drought for their school. The High School Sports Insider will be right back. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine. The High School Sports Insider rolls along. Thanks for riding shotgun with us. A couple of years ago, TJ Kwasniak took over a Euclid basketball program that won 2 games. The turnaround has been dramatic and probably quicker than most expected. Last year, the Panthers won 12 games, and this year, they ended a drought of nearly 25 years. Euclid won their first district basketball title since 1995. It wasn't easy, but nothing worthwhile ever is. The Euclid Panthers are Team of the Week.
1995, that's a long time, so we made history. Everybody doubted us, just everybody, but we have to prove everybody that Euclid, we don't suck no more. We'll just keep pushing and pushing, and we'll just get the dub.
Mario Lacey and his Panther teammates weren't even born 24 years ago, the last time Euclid qualified to play in regionals, but they've helped elevate the program to new heights. TJ Kwasniak took over a 2-17 program 2 years ago and credits his players with where they're at now and plans to just keep building on the success.
You don't have to leave the district anymore. It's proven. You can win at Euclid, and have a lot of fun. And that's kind of the main thing. You want to get in with the youth programs, with the JV, with the freshmen, and you look at what we did, beating Garfield and Shaker, the 2 programs that have owned this district for the last 10 years. and they're who we're chasing. And I thought this was a huge step.
We come into every game thinking we can win the game because we just believe in each other. We mute everything out, like in the crowd and everything. We just believe in each other. It's just, we realized that it's just us out there playing against our opponents. So we believed that we was going to win the game before it started.
That belief was evident in the district final win over Shaker Heights, a back-and-forth game late where the Panthers found a way to win.
Did you see our last 2 games? We defend, and I told everyone, like, we're never going to be able to score with these guys. We don't shoot it particularly well, but we held Garfield and Shaker to probably their season lows. So that's we're so long and athletic, and when we're playing hard and when we're engaged, and we don't care who gets the credit, we're pretty hard to score on.
The Panthers have a balanced attack and have had different players stepped up when called upon. The district tournament was no different.
It's been like that all season. Certain guys stepping up in certain situations. We wouldn't be here if we weren't playing so well as a team. I'm just so proud of these kids.
The guy who makes it all go is point guard Garvin Clark. When the game was on the line against Shaker Heights with less than a minute left, he delivered.
It's special, and when I always tell people, they're like, well, what do you think? I'm like, I don't know. They always start with, you have the best player on the floor, which is true. And if you look at our second half of the season, we went on an 8-game winning streak. Thursday, when some guys weren't playing particularly well, tonight, Garvin just refuses to let us lose. He's just been unbelievable, not just as and you see how quiet he is, but he's leading with his actions. He's on time, he's putting in the work, and he's just been tremendous.
It's just amazing because it's like last year we lost early. We told ourselves, like, we just got to get better. And we went in the gym the whole summer with each other and then just build our chemistry. So it feels amazing.
We talked about it ever since the beginning of the season. Our goal was to prove everybody wrong and get a district champ, get a district ship, just everything.
For the 16th year in a row, the Brecksville gymnastics team picked up a state championship. The Bees now have 19 overall. This year's team was led by senior Izzy Abakir. Abakir came through in the clutch at state, even though she battled injuries every step of the way. Oh, not to mention, Izzy is even better in school. Here's Izzy Abakir, our Cuyahoga Community College student athlete with a future. Cuyahoga Community College, where futures begin. You won't find a tougher kid than Izzy Abakir. The Brecksville senior has been competing in pain for years, but she will not quit.
For me, because I expect so much from myself, so it's been hard to accept that all the skills I could do before I got injured, I may not be able to do today.
Abakir injured her shoulder in the spring of 17. She even had surgery, but it still hurts to this day.
She's had surgery and it's just not getting better. Yeah, I mean, she's trying, she's doing therapy, she ices it, she does everything she can. But some things just don't heal real good.
And yet, Izzy always comes through. At last year's state meet, she competed in 3 events and helped the Bees win their 15th straight state championship. This season, Abakir barely practiced on bars and beam to save the wear and tear on her body. But at state, she competed in all 4 events, pushing Brecksville to its 16th crown in a row. The next day, she won the individual title on bars, finished 2nd on floor, and 3rd in the all-around.
I should just be grateful to even be able to do gymnastics because some people don't have the opportunity after they get hurt.
In school, her 4.5 GPA is off the charts because she's taking 4 AP classes.
I expect a lot from myself, so I think that's why I succeed so well in school.
Now that she's done with gymnastics, Abakir will focus on picking a college where she'll study physical therapy. But Izzy is leaving behind a great legacy for all the young Bees who are coming through the program.
She's a great motivator to the kids. Even when she wasn't around, she would be sending them notes and just come on, positive attitudes, and it's been great.
It's just such a great opportunity as a senior to be captain and being able to lead the team because it's really fun and it's just awesome to be a role model for the younger gymnasts.
If you missed some of today's show or want to see past episodes, they're online and free. What a deal, I know. Head to citybeat-tv.com. That's citybeat-tv.com.
Still to come on this show, we'll travel to Akron and check in on a big-time basketball recruit. Plus, we'll head to Boston for our Insider Classic who has become a hockey star.
I decided to go to Tri-C because it was easy to commute to. I was able to start Kent State as a junior. All my credits from Tri-C transferred to Kent State. I will be able to earn my bachelor's degree in 4 years. I saved a lot of money starting at Tri-C. My name is Stephanie Bain, and I earned my first degree at Cuyahoga Community College.
Thanks for hanging with us on this edition of the High School Sports Insider. Malachi Branham earned playing time as a freshman last season and helped St. Vincent St. Mary win the program's 8th state basketball title. When a freshman sees playing time for the Irish, he has the ability to be special. Branham was motivated by the success to work even harder. Now a sophomore, Malachi Branham continues to keep getting better and better. He and his Irish teammates are trying to keep alive their playoff run in Division I this year. Malachi Branham, our Spectrum News 1 game breaker.
6'6" Malachi Branham is a work in progress on the basketball court, but there's a great deal of talent, skill, and most importantly, desire to be the best he can be. Branham is just a sophomore, but has already emerged as a leader for St. Vincent St. Mary.
I'm being more confident with myself. Like last year, I wasn't confident, so that's pretty much it. And my shooting has got a lot better.
He's really young. His birthday is the end of May, so last year he's pretty much a 14-year-old playing. Now he's a year older. He's working hard at it. He spent a lot of time on his shot this summer. And that's hours every day. Getting in the gym and doing those things, and you can tell that he's gotten more comfortable putting the ball down, getting the ball to the rim.
An off-season of hard work is already showing dividends for Branham. He's improved his outside shot, which has really opened up Malachi's offensive game.
Just really catch and shoot in my arc, my rotation on the ball, because my rotation was not that good last year, so that's pretty much it.
He's continued to show a lot of faith in his shooting, and not only just the faith, but also, the understanding between settling for that jump shot and giving them the hard pump fake, getting the ball on the floor and getting it to the backboard. That just comes with growth and some maturity.
Branham is working hard on the other parts of his game to be the total force he can be. Malachi has a great willingness to learn, which is an important step.
Really, my rebounding, my boxing out, and really on the defensive end. Aggressive. Coach Drew wants to get up in you. You want to get up in their house, and that's it.
Some guys can really pressure the ball. He's not that guy, but I'm trying to help him understand that you don't have to be that guy. You can use your length. The main thing is to keep guys in front, and then transition from offense to defense. This got to get better. You got to run harder down the floor. I want him to be able to run him down, pin those shots on the backboard like LeBron used to do, because I think he's going to be that kind of athlete down the road.
Every show, we take a trip down memory lane for our Insider Classic. But this week's journey is a little bit different. 5 years ago, Cassidy Anderson led Shaker Heights to a state title in field hockey. Today, she is a star in ice hockey. Anderson recently scored the game-winning goal in overtime to win the Hockey East Championship, sending Northeastern to the NCAA tournament. Today, Cassidy Anderson becomes an Insider Classic. Cassidy Anderson began figure skating when she was 3 years old. Her competitive streak began even earlier.
I think I've always been competitive, especially with an older sister playing the same sports. Definitely with just having my parents around, they've played sports.
Her mother, Hillary, played field hockey at Michigan and coaches her team now. Her father, Eric, won the Butkus Award for the Wolverines in 1991. And her older sister, Kendall, is currently playing field hockey at Michigan State. Yet, Cassidy just might be the most aggressive athlete of them all.
She's always the one that wants the ball, regardless of the sports that she's played, which has been field hockey, soccer, lacrosse, ice hockey, all those sports. She's that kid that's like, give me the ball, I want to take it down the field and score.
And what do you know? Anderson scored the only goal in this year's state championship game. leading the Raiders to their first title since 1991. And field hockey isn't even her best sport. Cassidy is more at home, lacing up the skates and hitting the ice. She's been playing ice hockey since she was 5 years old, traveling across the country and even to Europe, sometimes playing other sports in between.
I remember having soccer and ice hockey tournaments on the weekends, like Saturdays. I'd have 2 of each sport, so I'd just be back and forth from the field to the rink.
These days, she can only practice alongside the Shaker varsity boys. Anderson is ineligible for OHSAA competition since she plays on national teams with other girls, which is a completely different game.
You're trying to take their body off the puck. It's more, you're trying to position yourself so you can pick off passes, get in the shooting lane, stuff like that.
Cassidy Anderson set out to reach 2 big goals in school. The first was a D1 scholarship, and she'll play ice hockey at Northeastern University in Boston. Her second goal was to be a straight A student, and she owns a 4.3 GPA in honors classes. A true student athlete with a future.
My dad pulled me aside and he's like, my dad pulled me aside at this age too. You can be good at 2 things in life, and school has to be one of them.
We want you to get more involved in the show, and you can through social media. Follow us on Twitter. We're at HS Sports Insider and at Dave Bacon Sports. Tweet us your story ideas or pictures or video showing your school spirit. We'll use them in a future show. We're still plugging away on Facebook as well. Head to our page and like us. We're at High School Sports Insider.
Here they come. The tweets of the week are on their way.
I've got a 4-year degree. I wasn't really able to find a job despite putting out over 100 applications, so I decided to go back to school. You know, Tri-C really did change my life. After getting my degree from Tri-C, I'm working in the IT field. I work at a job I love. Life is good, thanks to Tri-C. My name is Josh Gatka, and I received my IT degree from Tri-C.
Welcome back inside the High School Sports Insider. For the first 25 minutes or so of the show, we've told you what we think is important. Now it's your turn to get involved. We're always on the lookout for outstanding performances, crazy shots, or high school kids just having fun. That's where you come in. When you see something like that, you have to let us know it's happening. Few rules. You have to use 280 characters or less. Video or pictures are even better. It's time for the tweets of the week.
Dylan Diamillo from Genoa area wrestled himself into the record books. Dylan became the 32nd 4-time state wrestling champion in OHSAA history. Zia Cook from Toledo Rogers named the OHSAA Division II Player of the Year in girls basketball. Cook also a finalist for Ms. Basketball. And Alex Marinelli won the 165-pound Big Ten title for Iowa. The St. Paris Graham alum also named USA Wrestling's Athlete of the Week.
Keep those tweets coming. We want your story ideas or pictures or video showing your school spirit. Tweet those to us. We're at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. Again, that's at HS Sports Insider or at Dave Bacon Sports. Use hashtag HSSI Ohio. We'll use a few of them on upcoming shows as the tweets of the week. Unfortunately, we are all out of time on this week's show. Before we go, we want to thank you for taking the time to join us. We hope to see you back here next week, same time, same place, when again we'll have some of the best high school sports stories from all across Ohio.
And as always, thank you for supporting high school athletics. Have a good night.
The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education program has been recognizing role model students and teachers since 2007. To nominate a deserving teacher or student, go to OhioLottery.com. In the About section, find Supporting Education. There, you can nominate students in kindergarten through 12th grade as academic all-stars. Teachers can be honored as the Teacher of the Month. Every school that participates is eligible for the School of the Year. The Ohio Lottery Partners in Education, where stars shine.